Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. It's that time again where I rate Final Fantasy XIV characters and make you all mad. There will obviously be heavy spoilers in this video, so don't watch if you haven't completed up to 4.0. That's your warning, although I'm not sure why you'd be watching a Heavensward video if you haven't... whatever. Anyway, the basic idea, of course, is that after each expansion I complete, I use this video to look back on all the amazing times we had together. Oh, the wonderful memories. Please don't... Bro, that came out of nowhere, man. And rank the best and worst characters of the expansion, whilst also re-evaluating my perspective and opinions on the characters from last time who may or may not still be with us. If you haven't seen the Realm Reborn character tier list, check it out by clicking up there or in the description below, along with the full Final Fantasy XIV playlist, also in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more, and yeah, let's get into it. So, one of the first new characters we meet in the expansion is Edmont of Thordan, as Haurchefant kind of chauffeurs us up to House Thordan, and he basically accepts us with the arms wide open into his home, which was pretty awesome. Considering he's a highborn of Ishgard, it's weird to see that he's so openly embracing outsiders, right? Plus, on our first look kind of tour of Ishgard, we get the narration by Stephen Critchlow, who sadly passed away, but I think I mentioned during the episode that it was just awesome. The voice just really suited. I don't know what it was about it, but it worked so well, and it works so well for the character as well. The way that kind of narration was written as well, with the they came stuff, just really tied a lot of the expansion together. So yeah, awesome character. You can see that he goes through like quite a lot in the expansion. He's obviously taken in Haurchefant as, you know, like another son, as well as his other two sons, who we'll talk about later. After Haurchefant dies, he goes through, you know, all the emotions that a father would, right? And then has a lot of reservations with regards to what Aymeric wants to expose the lies of the Holy See, right? And then, you know, everything ends up working out okay. And he closes the book. He's, you know, we're reading, the narration is reading from his memoirs. I thought that was cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed his character as a whole. I felt like he was very core to the expansion. So right now I'm willing to place him in an A, I think. Just for like preliminary. We'll see where it goes, but okay. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the bad guy, at least of the main Heavensward content before the patches, in Thordan. Archbishop Thordan, Gigapope Thordan, or whatever, God Thordan, or Ultra Primal God Thordan, whatever it is in DSR, I don't know. Yeah, so Thordan's an interesting character to me. Starting off the expansion, I didn't think much of him. I thought he was just going to be like a typical bad guy, kill the heretics kind of guy, right, of the Holy See. But it turns out that his motivation wasn't necessarily bad, right? He wanted to save the realm or whatever it was, but it was the way that he wanted to do it, right? He wanted to do it by like basically becoming the ultimate god, and everybody would just bow down to him, right? He was very hard to read until the end because he displayed a lot of rationality, especially in that meeting with when Aymeric confronts him, but you still knew he was the bad guy, so you were always questioning what angle is this guy gonna get us from, right? And that's what I loved about him. I never knew right until the end, of course, where he walks in with the coffin, takes the missing eye out, and transforms into like God Thordan. That fight was totally awesome. It was just a very exciting moment in this story. I enjoyed it a lot. Thordan's pretty much on par, right? He's pretty much on par with Edmont. I don't know if he's S tier though, but we'll see. Anyway, okay, other new characters, we had Krile. Now Krile, I love Krile. I'm just gonna say it. I love Krile. Krile has like the sternness of a mother in like a teacher kind of way, but also has the playfulness we saw with, you know, Alfie and stuff like that. With Unu later on, she has the Echo too, so that's a +1. But even as we just saw recently with the Warring Triad stuff, she shows a little bit of vulnerability, a little bit of weakness too. So, and she's in the expansion a lot, right? So like, I think she's a pretty solid B, probably somewhere in the mid tier of B, though I'm really glad that we actually got to meet Krile finally. Minfilia's, you know, been talking about her since forever in A Realm Reborn, so this was cool. Speaking of Minfilia, now, where do we put new Minfilia that's not new Minfilia? It's actually Word of the Mother Hydaelyn, but whatever. Minfilia's always been a tough one, right? Because she feels like up till now she's played a pretty central role in a lot of the story stuff, but has also been super annoying. She was just so fucking annoying in A Realm Reborn, right? So we didn't even get to really see her in Heavensward until late on, when we find out that, you know, she's basically Hydaelyn speaking through her body. The new role that she took on in Heavensward was actually a super interesting one to me. I feel like it's going to play in later in the future in the story. I don't know how, I don't know why I get that feeling. I just like, it just feels like such an important story point. The idea of the balance and fate and all that stuff. I just think it's going to play back in somehow. I don't know how or when. I think last time I placed her in a C. Maybe I put her in a D. So does this new role move her up to a B? It is a tough one. I'll put her in B for now, because I did feel like a little bit of grief, right? When she left us, it felt like the rounding off of the Scions as we knew it, and, you know, new beginnings and stuff, right? So a decent B. Okay, I want to get through like a couple of lower tier, I would put, characters, largely because they didn't play as big of a role. That would be, you know, Biggs and Wedge and stuff. So, I mean, they're good characters, but they just like weren't really that big in Heavensward. I think Biggs and Wedge are probably just going to have to sit in D for now. They just weren't that prominent at all in Heavensward. They did a couple of things, like they helped build the ship and stuff, but yeah, it just didn't feel like they had anything to do with Heavensward. Anywhere that Cid went, they were. There wasn't any real reason for them to be in the story otherwise. So yeah. Speaking of Cid, I placed Cid in an S before. We love Cid, but is he really an S? Is he like top of the top? I don't know. Again, he didn't like play a massive role here. He did save my ass from Bismarck, right at the very beginning, and then he built the ship. But does that deserve an S? I don't know, man. I'm gonna put him a high A for now. Cid was really cool at the parts with Nero. Him and Nero, the like long lost lovers kind of thing that they had going on. But that was really only like a couple of patches, right? For Heavensward in particular, he was kind of absent for a lot of it. So yeah, I wouldn't put him in S, I'd put him in A. And then speaking of Nero, I think I'd put Nero in a high B. I like Nero a lot, but he's not good enough to get in the A yet. Last time we saw him was at the Crystal Tower raids, right? He chucks his little compass thing into the abyss below and then trots off into the sunset, and we don't hear from him until pretty recently. But he couldn't help himself, and he came back and, you know, launches Omega. So yeah, cool guy. But he hasn't really changed that much from when we last saw him. He still has an air of secrecy about him that I really like. Going into Stormblood, I think it's going to play a bigger part, specifically with Omega. I just don't know what yet. I think he has a secret plan up his sleeve, and he's, you know, crazy evil genius stuff. I just don't know what yet. We got to see a little bit more of him when he argued with Cid and stuff, but yeah, as I said, he hasn't really changed that much since Crystal Tower raid. So okay, so I think we have our first S tier. I think it's pretty confirmed that Haurchefant is an S tier, right, for Heavensward. Harky was the man. He saved my ass. He took us all in at our worst point. He welcomed us. He, you know, gave us our own, I think it was the Falling Snows was he called it, instead of the Rising Stones. Yeah, like it was, he's an awesome character, and I think everybody gets emotional whenever a character like that is lost. He was always there for us, and I think probably the most iconic moment in the whole expansion was Haurchefant dying, right? It was so sudden, I did not expect it at all. Yeah, it was a real surprise. I just don't think he can go anywhere but an S. He was such a good friend to the Warrior of Light. I think there's nowhere else he can be. Okay, another new character is Hilda. Oh, Hilda. Hilda. Pretty cool character. Pretty badass. She had some really cool skills. Very helpful. Yeah. Great skills. Did I mention her skills were really, really great? Where do I put Hilda? Is Hilda a C? Is she above these two? I don't know. She's on par with these two. Despite me loving her, she's kind of on par with these two, right? S tier? Yeah, okay, we'll put Hilda in S tier. All right, next. Okay, speaking of women that the Warrior of Light missed out on, we have Lucia. Now, Lucia, I thought was going to be, honestly, a bigger character. I think I said that in the last character tier list, but she didn't turn out to be as, you know, impactful as I thought. She was still cool. There were still a lot of cool moments there as well. There was the reveal that she had that she was Livia's sister and she's from Garlemald, but that was really it. She was always just by Emmeric's side and kind of did his bidding. Plus, she chose Aymeric over me, so there wasn't really much to her in terms of character development beyond that, right? I don't know, I might move her up. We'll see. She might get into B. She's a low B at best. But I'm going to put her in C for now just to fill it out. So, and then speaking of Aymeric, what are we thinking? Yes? Yeah? What are we thinking? Here or here? Honestly, I just think he's an S as well. He has to be, right? He was like one of the most prominent characters in Heavensward. Very key to a lot of the things that happened slowly across the whole course of the expansion. He goes from, I remember the first meeting we had in the Intercessory when Ishgard was closed off and they had the impending dragons attacks. He goes from a cold, closed kind of representative of Ishgard and their traditions and stuff like that to ultimately, becoming a warm friend to the Warrior of Light. We sit down and we have dinner together and bond, right? I invite him to places, stuff like that. It was nice. So I think there's a lot of character progression there. At the end of the day, he felt like a friend. Plus, his sultry Englishman voice as well. I think he's a solid S for Heavensward. Okay, and while we're still on the highborns of Ishgard, I wanted to do the Fortemps boys in Emmanellain and Artoirel and I guess Honoroit as well. So we'll start with Emmanellain. He's young and stupid and annoying throughout most of the expansion. And I think a lot of that has to do with the pressure of trying to live up to his older brother and the family name as well. Towards the end of the Dragonsong War, he of course makes up for a lot of that after a huge error, which, whatever. We'll look past that because he made up for it. Yeah, he becomes kind of like a more mature man, an actual knight, I guess, right? He fights in the Grand Melee and he fights on the bridge as well at Ishgard at the end of the Dragonsong War when Nidhogg and stuff attacks. So yeah, I think he makes up for a lot. I think he's just a C. I think he's kind of a mid character. I think he had his own little story and stuff, but ultimately he didn't play any real big part aside from that one time. And I'd say the same for Artoirel as well. Artoirel, we didn't really learn that much about, right? He was the elder brother of House Fortemps and, kind of had the responsibilities. He was more grounded, and that was really all I remember learning about him. Then we have Honoroit, who's probably around the same, right? Young boy, scared, stuff like that. Of course, there's the incredibly sad news in real life to do with his voiceover artist as well. Yeah, I don't think these three played that big of a role in the overarching story of Heavensward. They didn't play that much of a big part, but they were nice little additions, which is why I'm probably not going to put them in D, right? All right, so I want to move on to Ysayle, because Ysayle, I think I said in the last one, I knew was going to be, or at least I felt like was going to be a bigger character than she was kind of letting on to be, right? And she was, quite clearly. Iceheart, Shiva. That was one of the turning points of the expansion for me that really made me realize that the writing was certainly improving. And it was the moment out in the Western Highlands where you're with Estinien, Einstein, and she's explaining the story of Hraesvelgr and Shiva. I just thought it was an incredibly moving story, and it was very beautifully timed and very beautifully written. And, her character was so complex. We start off with her being evil, right? We start off with her, being one of the enemies, and then she's letting dragons into Ishgard to attack out of some weird sense of allegiance or some weird delusional understanding of her relationship with Hraesvelgr, which ultimately we find out is, she gets that thrown back in her face by Hraesvelgr, where he tells her, no, you're just like making it up in your head. You're not actually Shiva. So she has to come back from that as well. And she does in probably the biggest way that you ever could. She saves our lives in the back of Hraesvelgr as we're entering Hasisla with the Empire ship. She gives up her life as the ultimate sacrifice. I really enjoyed her character. I wanted to see more of her as a character. I valued a lot the time where we were kind of on the road with Einstein and Alphinaud going to meet the dragons, and she was kind of the ambassador, I guess. And I wish we got to see more of her, honestly. It was a nice fitting end at the end of the Dragonsong War on the bridge, where, you know, we kind of pay tribute to not only Ysayle, but Harky as well. So I think I really want to put her higher than Cid, quite honestly. For this expansion, maybe Cid, you know, has a comeback in Stormblood. I don't know. But for this expansion, Ysayle was such an awesome character throughout the whole thing. I don't think she's quite an S. She's a very high A for me, though. Yeah, speaking of the road trip, I think Einstein goes right beside her. I don't know whether he goes that side of her or that side of her, but I think because of the whole Hraesvelgr stuff, it just felt, I don't know, I really like that storytelling. I think Estinien goes a little bit below her, right? Though what he did was pretty cool. He started off as like a bit of a dick, quite honestly. He was the edgy guy that would sit in the back of the room with his waiting for us to like finish up so we could like get on with it. But then you have the campfire scene, again, part of the road trip. That was awesome. It was a turning point for a lot of those characters, right? And then as one of the Azure Dragoons, he gives the ultimate sacrifice as well. So they're pretty on par with each other, right? He manages to survive it and disappears, slips away into the crowd. Who knows whether we'll see him again? So that's why I place him a little bit lower, because we may see him in further expansions. I'm predicting that we will, hopefully at least. But that's why I place him below her, because, you know, she had the closure and that was her story and it's done, and it's like, okay, at least I think it is. Ysayle and Estinien are pretty much on par. Okay, another member of the road trip. The guy who was probably one of the more annoying characters of A Realm Reborn outside of Minfilia. Alphinaud Levelure at your service. I'm not sure how I feel about Alfie. Honestly, I'm more positive about Alfie than I was in A Realm Reborn. Alfie really pissed me off in A Realm Reborn. I don't know why. It was just all the orders and stuff that he would give around. Yeah, he toned down a lot of his nonsense, which is perfect. It's exactly what I was looking for. With all the Crystal Brave stuff that happened at the end of A Realm Reborn, you can tell at the start of Heavensward that he's very down about that. You know, he's clearly repenting about all that stuff that happened. So, but yeah, he showed a lot more maturity as well, I think, because of that. Largely, he was hesitant to take the lead on things sometimes. He would question a lot of his decisions. A Realm Reborn, he was, we're the saviors of Eorzea and we can do it if we all just come together and be nice to each other. And I think in Heavensward he was a little less of a romanticist, but I actually ironically think that he came to value friendship more and in a more realistic way in Heavensward. As we see, you know, with Einstein at the end, he doesn't want to lose another friend, and he's very emotional about that. Yeah, I like that he's matured a lot more and he's cut out a lot of the nonsense that really annoyed me in A Realm Reborn. Where do I place him though? I think Alfie is... I just think because he's always there and his importance, he's an A by default. Yeah, I don't know where else he goes. I don't think he goes below Thordan. And in that case, what the hell's Cid doing up there, right? Yeah, I think Alfie's like a mid-A. He's a pretty important character and stuff. So yeah, this is kind of the only place I can see him fitting in. That said though, his sister, Alisaie, who we haven't seen, depending on whether or not you did Coils or not, we haven't seen her since the end of Coils. But if you didn't do that, you wouldn't have seen her since they had their little argument and breakup in Mamodi's place. What is it, the quicksand or whatever? Yeah, so she disappears and then she comes back and she's like a totally new person. I thought it was one of the best moments of the expansion, quite honestly. I really enjoyed her return, her comeback. She, like her brother, has significantly matured. It feels like she's lost a lot of the fragility that we saw in Coils, you know, when she would get real pissed off and stomp off on her own and stuff like that. And even during their argument was part of the reason why. We have the very touching scene under the stars. She talks to the Warrior of Light and stuff, and it's nice. She's sweet. She's become a very sweet character. But then you see another side of her with the fight with the Warriors of Darkness, and she brings out this badass sword, and I'm like, holy shit, what the hell is this thing? Yeah, that was awesome. That episode, she instantly became one of my favorite characters. Personally, I'm putting her in S. I think Alisaie is an S for Heavensward. I mean, for Heavensward? No, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put Alisaie. Alisaie is on par with Ysayle in terms of Heavensward for me. She's just like, she's sweeter. She's a sweet person. I'm excited to see where her character goes further. You know, at the end, she's stuck around with us now. She basically agreed to become a scion, so I guess we'll see how much more important stuff she can do with us. Okay, time for more bodies. We've got Regula van Hydrus. Where would I put Regula? Honestly, I think Regula, despite that one part in the Warring Triad where he dies with the random kind of alliance, aside from that, he just like wasn't anything. That's kind of what's keeping him out from an F. I don't really see where else Regula goes. He didn't really have that much interesting stuff with him. You know, even compared to some of the other Garlean characters, I didn't really give a shit about him. I didn't even care if he died. I was just like, whatever. Yeah, that's Regula. Okay, another body. Okay, an actual good body. Nidhogg, pretty much the key body of Heavensward. The Dragonsong War portion of Heavensward, at least. Pretty awesome body. A very rabid villain, right? You know, he tries to manipulate his brood brother in Hraesvelgr into committing like a relentless pursuit of the Ishgardians because of what they did in the past. Obviously the time scale with like dragon time and stuff. But yeah, I think like his lust for vengeance was, it didn't need to be anything more than that to make him a good character. He was very scheming and conniving and just evil, just the epitome of evil encapsulated in a character. And I actually think that as far as a bad guy goes, he's a pretty solid character, right? He's like nothing over the top, nothing that was lacking. He was like cool enemy, not quite as cool as Thordan, right? Thordan turning into, you know, God Thordan, but the bridge fight and stuff, the battle was awesome. A very cool spectacle right there at the end of the Dragonsong War. A lot of the things that he was doing were justified in his mind, but obviously he went way too far with it. So that's what makes him an interesting character, is the fact that he did go too far with it. I enjoyed his design and stuff a lot as well. You know, with Hraesvelgr and the others, they were a little softer, I want to say. Whereas with Nidhogg, he was very like, the design of him was very sharp, very not nice on the eyes, at least in terms of a dragon, right? Yeah, I think pretty solid B. His brood brother, Hraesvelgr, another super important character in Heavensward. I'm willing to put Hraesvelgr in a mid to high A, honestly. What I really liked about Hraesvelgr was, well, firstly, Hraesvelgr was kind of one of my favorite characters in Heavensward. But what I really liked about him was that, you know, the trauma that he went through, starting with that story of Scaeva, and then, you know, he has Nidhogg to deal with. Nidhogg's trying to manipulate him into doing stuff, and he feels obligated because he's his brood brother. And then, you know, you think about Bahamut and all the Allagan stuff and how all that plays into his decision making. Midgardsormr, the guy's got a lot on his plate over the last 1,000 or so years, right? He's had a lot to deal with. He just wanted some peace. He lost the one that he loved and he just wanted some peace. Ultimately, he was kind of forced into this whole situation again, and ended up again another one who gave the ultimate sacrifice right at the end. Why? Because Ysayle, Scaeva, right? Even though that wasn't actually his love, Scaeva. I don't really know like what his motivation was in terms of helping her there. I don't know, maybe it was just a plea from her. As far as I remember, maybe there was something, but yeah, he eventually turns on his brood brother and they have this epic fight that results in him really getting stomped, quite honestly. But then we defeat Nidhogg and the eyes get thrown over and the power is gone, and which is kind of sad, but it's also a resolution to the story of Hraesvelgr. So yeah, I just really enjoyed his character. I just loved the whole thing with the dragons, the intimidating nature of standing in front of this huge dragon, right? The history there and stuff. I found it fascinating. It's hard to put a dragon ahead of like the main human characters. I almost would put him above Alisaie and Einstein, but I don't know. I just feel like this is where he should be. Another dragon, of course, not new to us, but returning again is Midgardsormr. I don't know where really to put Midgardsormr. He didn't play that much of a role, but I'm gonna put Midgardsormr in a C. It was hard for me to get a feel for what the whole, I guess, like family tree and stuff of the dragons were. But then we get to the point in Ysayle, we come across his brood sister in basically shackles in the Allagan, control devices, just stuck there for God knows how many years. You can feel the pain there. You can feel the heartache there or something. That's what really made it clear to me, the kind of torture, I guess, that the dragons have undergone from the Allagans, and made me understand a lot more about how each of the dragons kind of plays their roles and why they're doing what they are, what their motivations are. Especially Bahamut as well, locked in Dalmud for 1,000 years by the Allagans. It was a very cool interaction between him and his brood sister at that point. He popped up every now and then, helped us out with Hraesvelgr, I guess. But aside from that, it wasn't super important. And I got to ride on him, so that was kind of fun, right? But yeah. The last dragon on the list, Vidofnir. I did enjoy Vidofnir. Yeah, I think I'm going to put Vidofnir like a mid-C as well. Slightly below Lucia, but like being the first ambassador to Ishgard from Dravania, I think was cool. She was very friendly, but also had this intimidating motherly kind of vibe about her. I don't know what it was, but the part with the ceremony in Falcon's Nest where Einstein comes and, does the whole joke. I was genuinely shocked. I did not expect that to happen, and I felt pain, honestly. I was actually like, I don't want her to die. I don't want her to be injured here. Luckily she wasn't. Like 30 minutes later she was fine, but I felt something there for her. So that there's something there, and I think that's worth something, and that's why I put her where she is, right? Okay, moving on. I guess Yugiri helped us break out Raubahn, right? And the Domans helped us break out Raubahn from Halatali, but at the same time she was just missing for a lot of the expansion. Obviously incredibly sad reasons for that as well in real life, but just purely going off like her character and stuff, yeah, I don't really think she played much of a role in Heavensward, unfortunately. I wish she did, and I think that she will going into Stormblood. I think that her and the Domans, especially Gosetsu, who we'll get to next, they're going to play a big part in Stormblood. I have a feeling that we're going to go there. I have a feeling that because they both left, that we're going to somehow end up going there with them for whatever reason. I don't know why, but like, why would you introduce Gosetsu and then just take him away like that? I don't know. So I think we're going to see a lot more of Yugiri in Stormblood, and yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say for her in this expansion. Obviously incredibly disturbing backstory kind of as to why she wasn't that present in this expansion. But yeah, so moving on to Gosetsu, I actually liked Gosetsu a lot. I think, honestly, I'd put Gosetsu in a low C. Low C because we don't know that much about him, and he was just kind of thrown in at the end there to set us up, I'm guessing, for Stormblood. But he was a funny character. He was a very forward, traditional kind of guy, and he was also really cool in battle as well when we fought one of the guys who I'm going to leave until last. But yeah, I think, he's... No, okay, I'm going to put Gosetsu below Hilda because Hilda had a lot more to do with the Heavensward stuff and Dragonsong War stuff, Holy Sea, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Okay, I guess speaking about the Domans and how they helped rescue Raubahn, we have the man himself. I'm pretty sure I placed Raubahn pretty high last time. Didn't play as big a role this time. Obviously, you have the, breaking him out of jail sequence, but after that, and then, waking Nanamo up, he really just kind of disappeared, right? I guess there was a lot of other things going on as well. He kind of like takes a back seat right until the finale where, Ilberd gets involved and stuff. Obviously, those two have a bit of history. So, but yeah, I'd have to move him down here. I think even below Nidhogg because he just didn't play that much of a role, right? Like, aside from that, he just played normal diplomat role. The Grand Melee, we had the battle. That was cool. He was pretty solid this time. Wasn't anything special for Heavensward, unfortunately, because I loved him in A Realm Reborn, but I guess Nanamo and the whole Ul'dan stuff take a back seat to the Dragonsong War because we're in Heavensward, right? Okay, so we have the Griffin himself. The man.
It was me.
We have Ilberd. Man, this guy gets around, right? Cuts off Raubahn's arm. Now he's back, and Jesus, now he's leading a revolution against the Garleans for Alamigo, as he very aptly like to tell us during his fight for Alamigo, right? In addition to, you know, sloppy, of course. I'm gonna place Ilberd higher than Raubahn, but lower than Nidhogg. Mid B. Why? Because I say so. Okay. I think honestly I put Ilberd here because of sloppy, right? I just move him up because of that. Though we did get a pretty awesome ending for Ilberd, I really loved that scene where, you know, he falls off the wall, and yeah, the idea of sacrifice and just the design of that scene, all the things that come up, and it was just so creepy but also just awesome, you know? Yeah, it was a very striking scene, not one I was used to seeing in the game at all, quite honestly. It was very different, very stylistic. I had a feeling throughout that we were going to see Ilberd do some stupid shit again after the whole Crystal Braves saga, but yeah, I didn't expect it. I did not expect it to result in a fucking primal. Yeah, speaking of primals, I would have put Omega and Shinryu in here, but they're not really characters per se, so I left them out. But going off of that, we have our dearest Papalymo. Papalymo, I wish we got more of Papalymo before he went. He was gone, he was missing for the majority of Heavensward, right, with Ida or Lyse. I really wanted, when we got them back, to expand on both of their character stories a lot more. And it was totally unexpected when all that happened with Ilberd and the Primal, and I was just blown away by how fast it all happened. You know, he had a sense of stoicism right up until the end, where he mentions like Louis Soir and you know, being a student, and he's kind of comparing himself, wondering whether, kind of testing whether he will be his finest student or whatever it was. Yeah, he shows a little bit of vulnerability there right at the very end. But yeah, another one who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Damn, we lost a lot of people. We lost a lot of people in Heavensward. Yeah, he gave the ultimate sacrifice again, and where am I going to put him? It's hard for me to put him. See, this is where people get mad at me, right? Because besides that, he didn't really play a role in Heavensward. But, you know, does that boost him like higher than Krile, for example, who's in the whole thing of Heavensward? I don't know. Maybe. Okay, I just put the Lalas together. Fine. You guys can be together. I think it's pretty accurate. Yeah, it's a big sacrifice, character gone. But aside from that, we didn't get much else from him in Heavensward. So I don't think I can place him in like an A or anything. I think placing him above Nidhogg is enough in itself. I think that's as high as I can go with Papalymo, despite what he sacrificed. So yeah. So yeah, I guess we move then on to another scion that returned with Papalymo in Ida, or as we now know her, Lyse. A very interesting point in the story, right? Very interesting point where we learn after Papalymo's death that she isn't actually Ida. That was her sister. Papalymo knew this, but played along with it, and Ida is actually Lyse. She just took on her sister's identity. But I guess that's what motivated her to do it, right? When, you know, Papalymo dies and she's like, I just want to be myself. I'm glad that she's finally being true to herself and, you know, no more mask and stuff like that. That was awesome to see. Aside from that, though, she didn't really have much to do with the story again. So, yeah, like, again, I feel like she's going to play a bigger part in Stormblood and further on, but for now, I think like a low B is pretty solid for her. I can't really see her going anywhere else. Maybe a high C, but I don't know. I like the Lyse stuff, so it was very good writing in my opinion. And you could tell all the little hints that Papalymo was giving, but you never notice him, of course, in the moment. But you could tell when you look back at it that he knows, right? Yeah, I think she's a low B. I think that's fine for her. Oh yeah, we've got the rest of the alliance, I guess. In Kan-E and Merlwyb. I don't know. Merlwyb just didn't play a role. She just like didn't play a role in Heavensward, right? What did she do? She just kind of held a standard diplomatic position, said yes on a couple of things. She had like nothing to do with Heavensward, basically. Kan-E-Senna, I think Kan-E-Senna is probably here. She had a little bit more than Yugiri because she was always present. We'd always go to Nafika's altar and have like the alliance meetings and stuff. But yeah, she didn't overwhelmingly have a lot to do with Heavensward as well. Just standard diplomatic positions. I think those two are pretty low on the Heavensward scale. They took a back seat, I guess. Matoya is hard to put anywhere. I kind of liked her though. Obviously, a couple of you guys have told me that she's a throwback to an old Final Fantasy character. Where does she fit in here? She did help us out a lot. We did the anti-tower stuff. I liked her little cave hideout. That was cool. I liked the kind of camaraderie that she had with Ysayle. She had this kind of comedic property to her where she would give orders, you know, to Alfie and to Ysayle, while letting the Warrior of Light, you know, do the real work. I think she's probably a little higher than Emmanellain. Yeah, she's like on par with these guys here. These are kind of grouped, right? They had like some influence on the story at certain points, but nothing mega. And here's where you start getting into like actual story points. What else we got? Oh yeah, Ysayle. We should go to Ysayle then. I love Ysayle, man. Ysayle is always hard to place for me. It feels like Ysayle should be like a super main story character, but she never gets there. It feels like she's always just there. She gives her advice. She should have like far bigger a role, it feels to me. I just don't know where or how. In Heavensward, of course, it was awesome to get Ysayle back, and not just for that scene, but I just like having her around. She seems very wise to me. I think I said this in the last one. She seems like a very wise person. Obviously now she's blind. She can only see, I guess, the etheric signatures and stuff like that. Of course, that comes in helpful as well. I think we learned that, you know, there's some life force or something that's being drained from her every time she uses that sight ability or whatever it is. I feel that that's building us towards Ysayle going out at some point. I just don't know. In terms of right now, though, I don't know where to place her. I think Ysayle is probably in around here as well. It's very hard to distinguish between all these ones. Like the B section is just a mess always. In any one of these lists, it's just a fucking mess. So yeah, I wouldn't pay too much attention to the specific placement of them, but there's always like some sort of attachment I feel towards Ysayle for some reason. I guess it's just because Scion, she was there in the early days of the Scions and stuff. So yeah, I think she just sits kind of in the middle there for sure. Yeah, speaking of Scions, we got another Scion back in Thancred, right? Okay, firstly, let me place Thancred here. Wait, let me place Thancred here, okay? I'm gonna place Thancred in like a mid-A, like a very solid A. Slightly below Alfie because he was missing for half of the stuff, but I think I preferred Thancred more in A Realm Reborn on entertainment grounds because he was, you know, he was the womanizer, he had like funny lines, he was a cool guy, stuff like that. One of the first characters I met and stuff as well. Now it seems like he was, you know, super hardcore, edgy, and like Debbie Downer of the group he became. Obviously we know why, right? He's lost a lot of his ability. So that makes sense. Ultimately, I like that though. As a character, it provides the ability for more depth, and I'm very excited to see more of Thancred's character development, especially now that Minfilia is gone. We learn of, you know, the history between those two. I think there's a lot of potential still for Thancred. I've always liked Thancred as a character. You know, now I think he is a better character. I miss old Thancred. He was funny, he was cool. More Scions, I guess, Uri, right? So, where the hell does Uri play into this? Very secretive guy, had his master plan, chessboard, played it out all the way to the end, conspiring with the Ashians, but also not, but making us think that he was. Very good writing, honestly. I had no idea what to expect from him. At times I thought that he crossed over and he went to the dark side, you know? But I guess not. I'm going to put him in a high A. I think Uri was a super well-written character, a very slow burn character that I enjoyed a lot. You know, it's a big payoff with Uri. It sets it up for a whole shitload of potential, right? He plays Minfilia, discovers the whole balance thing and with the 13th, and basically has to make a decision to save the realm by making this, you know, long-term decision and sacrifice for Minfilia that, you know, she will go there and act as emissary to Hydaelyn and try and bring balance there. So it was a very, very interesting, very complex kind of story arc for Urianger. I think he was a really good character throughout Heavensward. There was always just little snippets of him looking like he was doing something bad, going behind our backs and stuff. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where all that stuff goes as well. So yeah, I guess speaking of the 13th, we have the Warrior of Darkness, or I guess this guy represents the Warriors of Darkness all in one. This guy was a dick. I'm just gonna say it. This guy was a dick. He was just straight up a dick. Totally understandable, you know. He's dead and brought back to life and trying to save his star, but never really felt like he was gonna give us a smile. He was always very sarcastic, very ugh. Where do I put this guy or these guys? I don't know enough about them yet. This is getting so hard. Okay, I'm gonna put him here. Again, there's that little I don't know what it is, attachment to Ysayle that I don't want to put him above her, but I think I get a feeling that there's more of an importance to these characters, of course, leading onwards in the expansions. That's why I put him above Nidhogg and stuff. I feel like these characters, right? Should I put Minfilia or the Word of the Mother above? Yeah, okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put Minfilia above, just reordering by the way. But yeah, I feel like in terms of Minfilia and in terms of the Warriors of Darkness are gonna play like a bigger part further down the line. That's why I don't want to put them low, but I don't want to put them too high because I don't know enough about them yet. So yeah, again, they kind of just sit in the mess of the middle B, right? Interesting addition though, interesting concept, interesting writing and stuff. So we'll see. They just kind of sit in the middle for now, alongside Elidibus, I guess, who was Elidibus is just kind of in the same place, right? Little less character. I would actually put Elidibus, I don't know, how do you judge importance versus character? I want to put Elidibus higher because I feel like he has a lot more importance. The same thing with Minfilia, but their characters just weren't that good. Like, they didn't have a lot of like character, you know? I'm just gonna put Elidibus with Minfilia. I don't really know where else to put the guy. He didn't have like a massive amount of character, but I know that he's important. I know that he's gonna play way more into it, but the character, just based on the character, like he's, yeah, whatever. Varys, the new emperor. Where the hell do we put this guy? Like, again, we don't really know that much about him. Like, I can't even put him above Regula, right? Because Regula had more of a story to him. Varys is very mid for Heavensward. Obviously, again, going to play more into Stormblood. I guess because Omega's launched now and all this stuff. The Garleans back in business, I guess. We saw him a little bit, but there really just wasn't much to judge him on, so can't really put him anywhere higher or lower. It's just kind of there, right? Honestly, Varys, I'm just gonna put below Merlwyb because Merlwyb, right? Our remaining three, we had Unu, recency bias. Unu, I'm gonna put Unu like here, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna put Unu in a high D. Being from the Void, that's cool, that gives you plus points. But I also feel like he's gonna have more importance. I almost kind of want to put him in low C, but I don't think he's worth that yet because he wasn't even main story quests either, right? It was the Warring Triad stuff. So you know what? I'm putting him lower than Hilda because Hilda. All right, penultimate, we've got the good old Tataru. What the f was Tataru doing this entire expansion? She was at the pub getting f***ing wasted. That was Tataru in Heavensward. And I love it. S. No. Honestly, Tataru didn't play as big a role in this really at all. She kind of, thanks for the cool outfit, I guess. The main thing I remember from Tataru this entire expansion was her walking in the opening scene of Heavensward, where you have the narration and stuff, looking around and the people were giving her dirty looks in Ishgard. And that was really it. She had her little coat on. Yeah, that was it. I feel like Krile almost took the spot of Tataru. When she does her little wave, like the hey, Krile started doing that. Obviously, it's a default Lalafell animation. I get that, but I don't know. It just felt like Tataru was missing. So we'll see. Maybe Tataru has her mega comeback and, becomes a Tataru that I love, but for this, she's a little more than Artoirel, I would say. Not enough as Honoroit, because Honoroit had like his little story and stuff. Honestly, he had more story than Tataru did, right? She just sat at the pub, got drunk, and eavesdropped, right? This guy, who the f even is this guy? Grinvat. I don't even know how you say his name. Whose idea was it to put this uwu motherfucker at such an important moment in the story? Was this just like comedic relief or something? Was that just like what the writers determined? I have no idea what the fuck this guy was even doing in the game. I have no idea. He's the F this time around. What the fuck was that? And then he ran off, right? Yeah. Why did I even put him in this list? I don't know. Anyway, okay, I guess that's my list. We're done. Love it or hate it. That's how I feel about Heavensward. Yeah, I mean, this was fun. Always a good little way of closing off these expansions and stuff. Of course, mega excited to finally get into the Stormblood stuff. So yeah, we're gonna have the trailer reaction that's gonna come first, and then we're gonna do the stream of Stormblood Day 1 4.0. Subscribe, turn on notifications so that you'll know whenever we plan to go live for that. I'll let you guys know in advance. Join the Discord as well if you want to stay up to date or get involved with any of the raids as well. And yeah, next up, Stormblood 4.0. I'm excited. I hope to see you guys there for the stream. And yeah, I'll see you then. Take care. Peace. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. It really helps with the algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new upload. Also, follow me on Twitch if you haven't yet. All the links are in the description below. Come say hi, hang out during streams. I hope to see some of you guys over there. Anyway, peace.